Hey, it's Dashia D.
And it's JStan.
Welcome back to In Retrospect Podcast. We look beyond the surface to find understanding.
Bring you laughs, knowledge, and culture.
So sit back, relax, and join the convo. So as you can see, we have a very special guest by the name of Damitra Hilton. She is an LISWCP. She works in the mental health field as a therapist. And in her previous life, she worked in the intimate partner violence field of awareness and advocacy for about 2 decades. Yeah. And we wanted to bring her on because October is, of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it is also Intimate Partner Violence Awareness Month, which a lot of times we don't hear too much about. But before we jump into that, we're going to go into our segment called Let's Unpack This, where you guys send in your questions or we unpack the foolishness that is going on in the news. This week, once again, Chrisean Rock has been all throughout social media. People are upset with her because after championing her and being like, girl, you got this, let that ain't fish nigga go. She is now saying, I'm going to change my baby's name from Chrisean Jesus Malone Jr. to Jonathan Porter Jr., aka Blueface Jr. And then she went on to go to Walmart with a dog, and the baby didn't have any type of neck support. He just was doing a halfway backflip. So, what are y'all's initial thoughts about that?
I feel like we need to give Chrisean more grace. And I know that people have, but she is in the public eye, and being a first-time mother in the public eye with a lot more scrutiny, a lot more eyeballs on her. And we've all made mistakes. You all are much younger than me, but we've all been young and dumb and have done things and have looked back on decisions that we've made in life in our teens and early 20s. And some of us of a certain age are glad that social media wasn't around then, because those things aren't documented. So I feel like she needs more grace. With everyone, like you said, championing her and wanting her to leave the situation, she won't until she's ready. No matter what she says, until she's made it up in her mind, it will be that ping pong back and forth with her and the other child's mother.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with everything you said. It's definitely a different time nowadays with social media, as well as even when the child was born. I believe the child had an Instagram account in less than like 30 minutes or something crazy, but it was up there pretty fast. That was very
IG Live.
Yeah, that too. It's very interesting. Some people like to record everything. I'm probably going to say something that doesn't have anything to do with this, but I never really understood why people put certain moments of their life onto social media. It still bothers me even when people record funerals, but that's neither here nor there. Like when I'm gone, don't take no pictures, don't record nothing. Just keep the obituary and that's it. Don't do nothing with me in no casket. Leave me alone. But anyway, back on track. What I will say though is she definitely should receive grace. Like what was mentioned, she is a first-time mother. She is trying to figure everything out. Nobody has everything together, and I'm pretty sure like first-time parents make a bunch of mistakes. The child wasn't secure like they should have been. Somebody caught her in that instance. Now, who's to say that she's not securing the child in the car the correct way, which she probably may be doing, but that's not going to be seen. You're just going to see what that one instance versus every other instance that she's taking care of the child. So social media is an interesting place.
I think Chrisean is a perfect example of what happens when you have grown up in a very abusive environment as a child, and that is now normalized for you, and that is your baseline. And so now she's starting to create that for her baby. I hope that by the time he is able to remember things, because he's going to see these things when he gets older, but by the time he's able to actually remember, I hope that she has left his daddy alone romantically, because Blueface is just going to continue to go back and forth between the two of them and whoever else. And that's just his prerogative. But
where he going, Dashia? Where he going? He's not going nowhere. That's his child.
No, I'm talking about romantically. Of course, he has to. Yeah. Well, he doesn't have to, but we would hope that he would be around for his child. But anyway, I think people can give her grace, but I also think that there can be people who are frustrated with her because they're like, girl, you are going down a very dark path and you can't seem to see your way out. I just wish she had somebody with sense around her. And I feel like none of them do. None of them have it, unfortunately. But moving forward, one thing I'll say is it's very easy to tell that Chrisean has been in an abusive situation with Blueface, and he's been abused by her as well, physically, because we can see the bruises, we can see the scratches and things like that. Outside of the physical bruises that we see, what are some other like uncommon signs that would let someone know, okay, this person might abuse me in the future, or they are abusive?
Well, I would say looking out for things like that person being excessively jealous, controlling everything, where you go, sometimes even where you work or go to school, what you're wearing. They're completely invested in you and what you're doing. They may also minimize.
They love me, though.
Yeah.
Some people may say that they're showing that they love me. I like them being all over all of my business. What would you say to those people that at times those lines get blurred like that?
I would think that eventually that would become tiring. At first, it may seem like, oh, this person really loves me. They're really invested. But after a while, someone, where you going, what you doing, calling 50 times when you are out and about, you can't enjoy your friends, you can't enjoy your family because they're consistently on the phone. I feel like anyone would get tired of that amount of involvement after a while, and there'll be some pushback.
Would you, well, I'm gonna say this and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. I feel like I would include love bombing as an uncommon sign that someone could be abusive in the future, meaning, because I know Justin gonna be like, can you explain that for the viewers?
Yeah, just give them the definition, because somebody may be tuning in for the first time, be like, love bombing.
So my definition, because I don't know the official definition, but my definition of love bombing is you meet someone and they are pouring out the compliments and just doing a little too much. It's like every other sentence. You're so beautiful. You're so great. Oh my gosh, you're so smart. You're so dope. Your energy, I just want to be around. And it's constant. It's to the point where it's like you've already said thank you 10 times and they're still going. That's love bombing. And they want to get you attached to that feeling and attached to them so that they could switch up on you, whether that be stonewalling you, Justin.
Yes, I just want to give the quick definition really quickly from health.com. It says that love bombing is a type of emotional abuse where someone uses grand gestures to manipulate another person. A love bomber may bomb you with gifts, compliments, and affection, but these actions are not done out of kindness. Dashia?
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Like they do it so that you get attached to them, and then when they switch on you, you're like, well, wait a minute, I want that first person back. But that's not who they were. That was just a mask.
Yeah. And as we all know, you can only keep mask up but for so long.
Right.
If that's not authentically you, that'll become tiring to the other person as well. And I don't know how many times you can hear.
I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. I'm sorry, continue. I apologize.
No. I think I'm lagging, maybe behind. But after a while, that amount of compliments, I feel like anyone would be like, okay, already, I'm beautiful. Got it.
Right.
What are you going to say, Justin?
What I was going to say was I was curious to know as well. I know we did mention as far as like bombarding somebody with love bombing, and just because people are doing that for you, some people may have good intentions. Now, we're not saying that folks that do this don't have any good intentions at all. We're just saying that these are things to be mindful of as a result of what studies show. And please understand that studies aren't always correct because everybody is different. But watch, they should go against with the grain what I'm saying, because this is what I say. There's always outliers in every type of experiment or anything that you do. And that's fine. You can rebuttal what I'm saying, but I like to go against the
I
grain.
want to
Now, this is my
clarify.
thing.
I want to clarify before I rebuttal. Are you saying that just because someone is love bombing you, that doesn't mean that they will eventually be abusive?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Okay. So I
No, go ahead.
I am. I feel like if somebody is love bombing you, they are going to be abusive. Now, does it have to be physical abuse? No, it could be emotional, because stonewalling, aka ghosting you and falling off the face of the earth after you have built some type of relationship, that's emotional abuse. So I don't think that any healthy relationship is ever going to start with love bombing somebody. That's a very toxic trait. So that's the start of something that is abusive, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, whatever that looks like.
Right. So what I was going to finish saying at the end was, when someone does do things like that, sometimes people do have pure intentions, and yes, they may say that, eventually it can become abusive in any type of manner, which is fine, because at some point or another in a relationship, everybody's not going to agree on any and everything that goes on. So, but the issue is that, in my honest opinion, what I feel is that though what occurs with love bombing is that the person becomes so dependent on these certain gifts, compliments, whatever is becoming, defined as love bombing, to the point when they just cut it off, and they've invested everything and anything into that relationship that is surrounded around that it creates that. But I feel as if though that other person that's receiving all these gifts, compliments, or whatever ultimately controls if it gets to that point by setting boundaries. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. I mean, the floor is yours as well.
I was letting you talk. Yeah, everybody is an active participant in this. You have one person that is love bombing or taking advantage, and then you have the other person who might be codependent. Yeah. So that other person needs to set a boundary or just leave that person alone altogether. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not going to last anyway. Because anything that starts that fast fizzles out just as quick.
Okay.
All right. According to the NCADV, about every 3 seconds, an adult experiences domestic violence. Women, specifically Black women, are represented the most in these situations. Does this statistic surprise you all?
Not at all for me. Black women statistically are perpetrated on more so. And I feel like what feeds into that is, well, first and foremost, a lot of Black women, not if their partner is also Black, not wanting to call law enforcement on that partner, because we know how that can turn out. It could lead to death. Also, Black women, there's the stereotype of the strong Black woman, and also her being a ride or die, stick by your man. What goes on in his house stays in his house. You're reaching out to outside sources. And then also any racism she may deal with when she does reach out to those resources. So all of that, I feel like, feeds into Black women with the domestic violence and them not wanting to reach out for help.
Yeah, as far as me being surprised by that, I wouldn't say I am. I just know when we come from, when I say we, I mean we as a people. When it comes to the Black community, we're behind in a lot of aspects of everything, and with everything that is going on. When I say we as a community are behind, It wasn't that far ago, like as far as like when slavery was, as far as women getting rights, and then as far as everyone becoming more involved and progressing in the workforce. So now you see this shift now where you're starting to see a lot of successful women, specifically a lot of successful Black women are starting to take off within the last 15 to 20 years. You're seeing an abundance of that, and you can say what you want. Anybody can feel any type of way about what I'm about to say. When you see a lot of people doing well, you have a lot of people that feel some type of way. And as of late, it has been a lot of men feeling some type of way about women taking the lead in some situations, not some, in most corporate situations when it comes to them leading them, telling them what to do. And in some cases, in some households, a lot of people are, I always say all the time, old habits die hard because things are changing in society. Everything that used to be a societal norm, it's no longer a societal norm. You can't put the practices of something that was going on 25 years ago into today's society with how household functions most of the time. Now you might have a traditional household here and there, but nowadays with everything that is going on, it's not also traditional. Now to get back onto the point with the question, I just wanted to give some backstory before I went into what I was about to discuss. Now, as far as when it comes to the abuse of Black women, uh, especially with them dealing with this, they are trying to protect their Black men specifically that they're dealing with, because they feel as if though, like I mentioned earlier, with all this injustice in their mind that has been going on for all these years past. But I still say that you need to take care of yourself. Reason being is, if you don't take care of yourself and make that call, one or two things is going to happen. All this is going to do is fester, and you're going to continue to deal with whatever situation you're dealing with, or they're going to leave you and continue this behavior somewhere else, which can't happen, because all it's going to do is hurt the community as a whole. It's not helping anything move forward. But like, I'm not a specialist or saying I got all the answers to anything. I'm trying to sound like I'm trying to simplify everything. It's not as easy as it sounds, especially when emotions are involved. It's hard for people to leave certain situations that they're entrenched in. A lot of people have issues as far as when they have a lot invested into a situation. If they leave, I don't know what my life's going to look like. That's what you predominantly see with a lot of, like I said, Black women, because they're trying to build and they're gaining all this success. They want to have the image of the perfect family at times, and everything's kosher, everything's good. But it's not reality. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you're dealing with, live with that, please. Don't try to worry about what other people think. And it's a major issue in our community when it comes to the Black community, with caring about our image and what other people think. If you got stuff going on behind the scenes, please, you need to handle your business, worry about all that other stuff later, but make sure you are taken care of, because that's insane. But that is caring about what other people think, I believe, plays a major role in that specifically.
Black women are not conditioned to or taught to take care of ourselves first. And that's not just romantically speaking. I mean, you have plenty of mothers who know that their sons are abusive. So they don't say anything to the son. They coddle him and just pray for him. Just pray for him. He'll get better. And prayer can help, but also therapy, right? And so I think a lot of times, beyond women trying to choose people who are healthy for them, parents need to have real conversations with their sons or their children about how you are supposed to be with other people, but they can't do that unless they're healthy themselves. It was another point that I wanted to make, and I'm trying to remember it.
Yeah, but Daisha, what would you say to those folks that give you pushback and say, I did everything I could, my child is their own person, they're not listening to me, and they're out here doing in the world, doing whatever they're doing, and I did everything I could for them, but I can't fix the way that they are towards women? What would you say to that, or anybody just in general, just posing that question?
Of course, no one can force anybody to fix anything about themselves. Once you're an adult, that's up to you to want to change yourself. But a lot of times they just end up changing partners or they end up in prison, or they end up doing the whole murder-suicide thing. Like, I feel like it's one of the three things that typically happen. I have not seen somebody who was an abuser, got help, and now everything is better. I haven't seen that. Not that it can't happen. I don't see very many people who are that self-aware enough to care enough to change anything. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I am surprised by this statistic. Every 3 seconds, that's millions and millions of people, specifically women, who homes are not safe havens, even though they're supposed to be.
Yeah, but you got to understand there's the population of there's more women than men in the world too nowadays.
Yeah,
men are typically the abused.
So what I'm saying is that adds to the statistic. I know it sounds high and alarming, but you also got to remember there's more women in the world than men.
Are you saying that men are also abused? I know that.
Oh no, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I'm just trying to give you some like understanding of like the number being like that. What it is because there's a greater like more women that are living.
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying? Yeah, that's why the number is what it is.
But I don't know. There's a theory where it talks about how people assume that someone else is going to help, so they don't say anything. And of course, I can't think of that right now, but that it does exist. And I'm going to give an example. I have had to call the police on a neighbor before for a domestic violence situation. Now, granted, initially when it started happening, I didn't know if that was what was happening exactly. So I tried to reach out to the office and reach out to, these different people. And I'm sure if I could hear what was going on, then everyone else around could hear what was going on, but no one would say anything. And then finally, one night, it just went entirely too far that I could hear. Police were called. And from my understanding, those two people are no longer together. But I think a lot of times that happens too. Like no one wants to be the person to say something because they don't know, they don't want it to come back on them. But speaking of that, people don't do that too because they feel like, well, if I speak up, you're gonna be right back with this person next week. So what's the point? And so they become frustrated with their loved ones. Why is it that people stay in such draining, toxic, abusive relationships?
I feel like they stay for the same reasons people stay in other toxic relationships that aren't necessarily physically or verbally abusive. They are in love with that person. They didn't fall in love overnight. They're not going to fall out of love overnight. For some people, they could be financially dependent on an abuser, especially if this abuser is one that has made them lose jobs in the past, constantly calling, showing up. Children are another huge factor. That we get, we constantly hear about the statistic of children that are raised outside of a two-parent home. So that'll come up a lot. Them, especially if they have male children, feeling like I need my male children need a father. I can't teach them to be a man. Mm-hmm. So lots of various reasons. They've learned, like you said, they've normalized it, that kind of learned helplessness of this is what it is, the kind of like the evil I know. And then statistically for survivors, when they leave that situation, they're in more danger than when they stayed. That's the most dangerous time for them is when they leave. The abuser has lost control, and his number one mission right now is to get that control back. She's left the household. Oh, we have to get on top of this right now. So a huge fear. If I leave, what is he going to do to me? And if he does something to me, then what will happen with my children? So they stay for those reasons and more.
Is the statistic still it takes on average 7 tries before they leave successfully? Is that still the statistic? Yep. Okay.
That is still the statistic, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's crazy too. And I will say this too. There are folks out there that you'd be surprised really enjoy all that turmoil and toxicity that takes place in these relationships. And you sit there and you think to yourself like, hey, you need to remove yourself from that. But there are folks out there that enjoy it. And it's really interesting that people really get off on that, like enjoy all that confusion, feel like, oh, arguing, it just shows that we love each other all the time. At some point, that we mentioned earlier, at some point you got to get tired of it. At some point, there is no way you wake up every morning ready to argue. And we talked about a couple different things, and I'm a movie buff. I watch a lot of movies. For anybody that's curious to see a prime example, you can go watch the 1991 movie Thriller, Sleeping with the Enemy, with Julia Roberts. She had an abusive husband where she was on a boat. She was on a boat with him and faked her death, escaped him, and she left, thought she was free, and he tracked her down. But I'm not going to give away the movie, but you should definitely check it out. Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts, 1991 Thriller. It will definitely give you a clear example of all the points that we've hit on, and it'll show you that, like that was mentioned moments ago, that the most dangerous time is when you leave, because now they're like, he was obsessed. He did not believe in his heart that she was dead. He continued to search for his wife, and she popped up. He found her. So just remember, if you're going to try to get away and do everything the correct way, documentation, make those calls. Don't wait to make a call. Make sure everything is being documented, and make sure you call. Do not wait until it's too late. But yeah, it's crazy out here. Dacia?
I want to add 2 other movies. Megan Good has one on Lifetime called Death Saved My Life. That one is actually really good. That came out like 2 years ago. And then, of course, Jennifer Lopez's Enough. I feel like that's the most popular one, but that's on Netflix. You said to make sure you document and call, and of course, do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel like the victim has to really be beaten up or near death before something actually happens to the abuser. There have been so many stories of women who have gone and made complaints. There's a story that just happened here in Atlanta. The woman literally called the police and said, "Hey, can you please be at my home when I get there? He threatened me. He has weapons and all of this." Nothing happened, and now she's actually facing life in prison because she defended herself and he ended up deceased.
Oh, she put him down. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry,
yeah.
don't mind me.
Oh no, it's fine. So document it and go to them, but I just feel like they don't really do a whole lot to protect you.
Right. So with that being said, I just want to say this really quickly. So if you feel as if though you're not being protected or they're not hearing you, definitely become mindful of the laws in the state that you live in. Certain laws will require you, or not require you, but allow for you to protect yourself within your rights. But make sure you're reading all of these laws to the letter for any technicalities, because if you need some understanding, consulting is free for you to understand the law in certain places. So definitely, if you need some insight, look into the laws that allow you to protect yourself. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not telling anybody to take matters into their own hands. I'm just telling people that you should know the law if you are calling yourself to protect yourself in whatever state you live in.
Can you go a little deeper? I think what he means is stay strapped, keep your head on a swivel. And if it comes between you and him, knock his head off his shoulders. Okay, so how can victims be better protected? Because as we know, they're not too much, especially if they're in a same-sex relationship. There's not much protections for people who are in these abusive relationships.
Yeah, so I would say, hopefully she has someone within the family that she can confide in about what's going on. I know that family has sometimes talked a lot about get away from him. He's going to kill you. And so she doesn't want to hear that I told you so. So she may be reluctant to reach out to them. But if she has someone giving them like a keyword, like if I text this or I call this means send the police, like things have escalated too far. So send the police or come yourself, depending on who the family member is. Maybe they're strapped, like y'all said, for someone to come out and help them immediately. Justin had talked about earlier putting documents aside. I would say, if at all possible, if she has access to any of the financials, even putting some money aside stashing away for when she does make that break. Coming up with a safety plan or an escape plan of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Kind of like how we pack for a baby when a baby is coming, with some extra things to the side, something that he can't readily have access to, that he won't find. Because if he finds out that she's thinking about leaving, of course, that's a dangerous time for her. Even once she's left pursuing an order of protection, unfortunately, with orders of protections, it does have to be a physical situation where he has been physically abusive or threatened to be physically abusive in order to pursue that avenue. So keyword, also documenting police reports, things such as that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then all I got is, I would just say, just educate yourself, and once more, educate yourself. Educate yourself on any and everything. What are some, like was mentioned moments ago? What are you in charge, or are you able to see the finances or within it, or control any type of finances within your relationship? Definitely try to put money aside so you can either get some help, find some help, or in case, just educate yourself, like consulting and learn more about the law. Because at the end of the day, you got to understand. And I will say, one of my jobs did mention this, and I'm not going to say which job this is, but it's going to be pretty evident when I say this. But remember, you are the most important package. Yourself first. You have to take care of yourself in any and every situation. But it's easier said than done, of course. But definitely educate yourself, and just also remember, there are people that it's hard for people to understand this or believe this. There are people out there that are dealing with the same thing that you're dealing with. So there are outlets and people you could possibly reach out to and talk to about situations. Now, granted, everybody may not be able to feel comfortable enough talking with people that are going through the same thing you're going through, or have been through the same thing that you're going through. But there has to be somebody you should be able to communicate with to know what is going on with you. Because if nobody knows what's going on with you, nobody can help. Nobody can help understand your situation at all. And it just becomes a very isolated, lonely situation. So just be mindful for anybody that's out there listening, or, curious about next steps. We basically discussed next steps and all possibilities of how you can handle next steps or next situations. Daisha?
So the only other thing I add is that I work in the educational system, so I definitely have come across a good bit of families actually who will come to me in private, this situation is going on and we need help. So if you work in the educational system, especially if you're a counselor or a social worker, try to keep an ongoing list of resources in the area so that if or when these situations come up, you already have them readily available to give to the parent. Because I know I've had it happen several times, unfortunately. And in the description box below, we'll make sure to include resources if you or someone might be in this situation. Thank you, Ms. Hilton, for joining us today about this conversation around domestic violence awareness. Again, we're going to include information below for appropriate resources. I have been Dashia D.
And I've been JStan.
Join us every other Friday at noon.
And always remember to like, comment, and subscribe.